yours, you may know her, besides Jimmy Codera. Her name is Oprah. And every day at 3 o'clock, we would get together and she would give me advice, right? On the television, of course. And she would tell me things, but I mean, literally, success leaves clues. Wouldn't you like to be a billionaire? I was like, maybe you should mentor someone with, billionaire status. And so she would give me this advice, and I actually got to hear her speak. It was one of my dreams come true. And it was called, the title of her speech was called, First You Hear a Whisper. I get chills just thinking about it. And she says, first you hear a whisper, and something says in your voice, slow down. Slow down, you're doing too much. Then if you don't listen to that whisper, you get something like a rock falling down. Bang, something, maybe it's a car accident. Maybe it's somebody in your family that's sick. And all of a sudden, all the things that you used to do, you can't do it anymore. You're forced to slow down by that rock, that situation in your life. And if you don't listen to that rock, what happens is a boulder comes down, like a serious pound. And then all of your perspective and perception of life changes. And this happened to me February 1992. It was Valentine's Day weekend. And I was very excited because I was going to have a great weekend. My boyfriend was going to drive down from Arizona. I was living in Los Angeles. We were going to go and have a great time. And all of a sudden, I get that call. Somebody ring the phone. Thank you. And he called me, and what do you think he said? He can't go. Sorry, had to work. But every day is Valentine's Day. Click, right? I was like, whatever. And so I'm thinking in my mind, okay, now what am I going to do? What am I going to do for the weekend? My first impulse, and I say impulse because it wasn't my intuition. Oftentimes we act impulsively. Like, well, what are we going to do? Let's just do something because we don't want to feel the feelings of disappointment or sadness. So as an adrenaline addict, we would move into action or activity to cover up that feeling, right? And so this time, I took a moment just to be still. Just to listen to Oprah, my mentor, just to listen to the whisper. And the whisper said, why don't you spend the weekend with your brother David? And I was thinking, why? It didn't make any sense. Sometimes our intuition doesn't make sense. If you ever watch the show Joan of Arcadia, she used to be asked to do things. You should get it on Netflix. It's a dating show. She used to be guided to do things, and she would never know why. And my brother was 16, and I was 19. I was like, well, what are we really going to do? We don't have that much in common. I didn't have a car. So when you live where I live in the San Fernando Valley, maybe even here, what you do is you go to the mall, right? You hang out, we went to the mall, and it was the time when Michael Jackson's Remember the Time video was out. We were like trying to get, I can't still do it, we're trying to get the neck, the new video I'm talking about? We were trying to do that move, and so we were having so much fun. I know it's fun, it's okay. I want to do it. Next week in my town, we're going to do the biggest thriller ever. Video in LA. It's gonna be fun. So we were trying to learn the moves, and we come home, and we're just like, I just felt so good. I just felt so good that I followed my intuition, because one of my priorities is my family. Yet, when it came to my life, they weren't always scheduled in my life because of school, because of work, because of all this. So the fact that I scheduled in my priority made me feel good, because my values and what I believed in was matching my behavior. And then my brother went home because he lived with his mom and I lived with my dad. And I got a phone call the next day. And I was thinking my mom was calling to thank me. And my mom's voice sounded really nervous. And she said, Deborah, David's been taken to the hospital. And I said, well, what's wrong? And she said he had an epileptic seizure. And my brother had had epilepsy his whole life. So my dad and I, we've been to the hospital before. So we took the drive up from Chatsworth, which is a valley way up to the desert where they were living. And we got to the hospital, and instead of taking us into the room, these social workers took us aside, and they said, we're sorry, but your brother David has passed away. He had a seizure. And I was like, no, I was with my brother yesterday. Yeah, and I went running into the room to look at him, and I saw a body, but not the soul. That was my brother. And as you can imagine, it was completely the boulder that had come down in my life. And it took me a long time to really understand it. Because like drama queen Janine would go into victim mode. I'll be like, well, what happened with his medication? Why didn't, my mom and my stepdad, what did they not do? You know what I mean? Or what did I do? If I would have have kept him one extra day, he could have, I mean, when you go into that place of victim mode, it doesn't serve you, right? And then people in our lives didn't help either. They would be like, oh my gosh, it's such a tragedy that he died at age 16. And for a long time I was wondering, it's in every situation in our life, any circumstance that you've gone through, whether it's been abuse or poverty or challenges with immigration, whatever experience you've had, this is what strengthens you. This is what gives you the character that creates a real leader. This is what is your inspiration to make your life better. You don't want your life only better for your family. You want your life better for your family, for your community, for the world. That's why you're leaders, right? And so, like, all of a sudden, it changed the way I looked on life. Because I was majoring in business, not because I like business, but because my dad said, you can make a lot of money if you go into business. I was like, okay, that sounds good. Let me go into business. But I hated it. Especially when I got to the economics and accounting class, I was like, I just want to be helping people. And so when my brother passed away, I decided to relabel it. Because when things happen in our life, no matter how challenging they are, it's how we label them is how we'll grow from them. Because some people could go down a path of drug addiction, or you could take it and use it and learn from it. So instead of calling it a tragedy, I decided that it was a destiny. That he was here to live for 16 years, and he was here to teach me how to be unconditionally loving for people with disabilities. How to empower people, not to look at them by their disability, but to see everybody's abilities. And so I changed my major. I was just like 3 semesters away from graduating with my business. Couldn't finish it, but I didn't have the energy at the time. So I went into rehabilitation counseling and became a vocational counselor and got my internship at the Epilepsy Foundation. And for 15 years worked with people at the Department of Rehabilitation, Goodwill Industries with disabilities. And I just thought, thank you, David. And to this day, he is my angel. Anytime that I feel, even going on stage, I don't feel like I'm alone. I feel like I'm here representing him. I'm not only speaking for me, I have the message. I am the messenger and the voice for my brother David. And you all have a message. You all are messengers. But we have to be available to listen. We have to be available to hear that voice. And the only way we're going to be available to hear that voice is to be present where?